Estou com o meu computador aqui. O Facebook demora um pouco para aparecer, mas os comentários não.
Ah, beleza. Maravilha.
Estava soninho ainda.
Gratidão. Very good. Check. Very well. Apologize for the delay, everybody. Was trying to get all things set up before we start here. Thank you very much for attending our meeting today, our talks. This is a special day. This is the 4th year that we are celebrating the Cherishing Life and the suicide prevention. So in 4 years we have been talking about a lot of issues that concern our society. And I am pretty sure that for this year, as we went through all over the day, everyone is kind of having contact either with yourself, either someone in your life who has attempted or committed suicide. And the pandemic has endangered our feelings, have put us in a lot of trials. But I am sure today to pass a message. We are not alone here. We are all together. And even the most struggling times, even the most tough moments of life, we're still not alone. We always have a lot of help. For that, I would like to initiate our talk today from a passage from this book. It was mentioned a few times, The Suicidal, A False Solution, and also we're having the audiobook that has been sent through the messages all over the day. In the very end of the book, there is an important passage that invites me to read just before we start. Whatever trials you are facing, open yourself to Jesus and trust yourself to Him with confidence. He is the way. Go forward, even when you are in pieces. He is the truth. Nourish yourself with His wisdom, His life. Wait in faith, and you will enter His completeness. Never kill others or yourself. I would like to invite you all to reflect. How are your emotions? How are your emotions during COVID-19? How is your family emotions? How is your soul? How is your spirit? How do you feel life? How is living life? How are the emotions of people surrounding you? Family, colleagues, friends. Can you feel something different? Can you see something different? And finally, how is the soul of people surrounding you? With those questions, I would like to advance them. Where has been your soul shelter? You might ask myself, what is a soul shelter? Well, a soul shelter is where you go for refuge in the toughest times of your life. In the moments that you feel that you are facing the most struggling times of your life. And that reminds me a very funny moment to bring this, but it's a story. It's a kid's story. And you all probably remember the stories about the three little pigs. We could have a shelter that won't support too much the storms of life, as it was the first pig. Or we may have a little bit more heavy, firm ground shelter. But that wasn't enough to keep the bad wolf out of the shelter, was it? And then we find the bricked and solid shelter of the third pig, the engineer pig who made a very nice house to protect himself from the bad wolf. Yes, we can choose which one of the shelters we will live in. But I guarantee you all, there is one shelter. It's above all of this, will always help us. Will always be there for us. And this is Jesus' shelter. Because Jesus' shelter just not only prevent us from the big storm, but also enlight the path to cross the storm, to find ourselves secure in the moments that we are broken, just as in the text said, when we are in pieces. Jesus is the answer to put all the pieces together. Jesus' message, Jesus' teachings can surely provide a shelter for all of us. Doesn't matter how painful your life has been. Doesn't matter how painful the life of people surrounding you have been. Seeking for Jesus' shelter, without question, is the path that each one of us should be following. And it is not because I am a spiritist, or some of you also are spiritists, that we find Jesus' shelter. Sometimes we actually are in the poorest shelter, but this is by choice. We chose to be in that shelter. We know the way. We have the teachings. We have the house. We have the brothers and sisters to help us to build our shelter and find Jesus' light. For that, we have to be willing to find the shelter. We have to recognize that we are weak. It is not easy to recognize that we are weak. I say by myself, father, 2 kids to create, a loving wife to take care of, and a lot of responsibilities. But it's still, all these are not my shelter. They can help me to build my shelter. But my shelter is my own shelter. Is my kingdom of God. Is in my heart and built in my soul. So willing to find this and recognizing that we are not in the right shelter yet, it's our own job. Nobody will do that. We may even hear people saying, we may even see example of other people, but that won't change that we have to find our own shelter. Identify our weaknesses. This is not easy. Sometimes very painful. Sometimes we think that we are beautiful. Sometimes we think that we are perfect. And then we recognize that we are not. We still have a lot of imperfection. And somehow we mask these weaknesses to survive. Most of us don't choose the masks as a mask chosen in a store to go for a Halloween party, for example. Most of us, through our ignorance, go develop masks because we found that was the right way. But at some point, invitations of love, invitations of pain come to our life to remind us, hey, your shelter, your mask is not strong enough, is not virtue, is not leading toward light. And then, recognizing and identifying this will lead us to realize the impacts of our weaknesses are having in our feelings and our behavior. Then, initiate the effort to change through the process of self-welcoming or self-embracement. It is important, and I know that our dear Louise have already touched this, but this is very, very important for all of us to understand that if we are not willing to leave their own shelter, we won't. Nobody will pull us out. But the storm will come and the shelter will go away. Identify our weaknesses, as I said, is not easy. But as we start accepting it, welcoming it, embracing it, we start going through the right process. And this right process is wonderful because self-welcoming is embracing self-love. Self-welcoming is self-acceptance. We are not perfect. We still struggle. We still choose the wrong shelter. Self-respect. Most of our brothers and sisters who end up committing suicides, they first don't respect themselves. They blame themselves for everything wrong thing that happened in their lives. This is not respect. This is not love. We have to understand, we have to be indulgent with ourselves. And indulgence not in the way that our society proclaims, but from the origin of the word. To understand that we are not perfect, and the others are not perfect as well. We are invited to self-confidence. I think Sonia has mentioned that we say a bunch of phrases to justify suicidal thoughts. I'm pretty sure the most common one, I am not strong enough. How many times we have repeated this? Each one of us. How many times we had suicidal thoughts? How many times we went through depression, as it was described all through this day? It always starts there. There is a sign. How many times we have committed suicide? Do we know? I am 100% sure that we are not connected by chance. And if we are talking here today about suicide and trying to motivate other people to think twice about suicidal thoughts, it's also because we carry a big luggage with ourselves, heavy, from lives and our lives that probably led us to many times of this love. But now, through that wonderful light that doesn't stop shining in our path, we are once again invited. Choose life. Life will always prevail. And with that, we understand the meaning of self-valorization. Because then I understand that I am loved by God. Once again, God is giving me a second, a third, a fourth chance. And He will give me more. How many times I will have to use God's love? How many times we will say no to His love? So, find in self-love, find in self-acceptance, find in self-respect, self-confidence, self-valorization. We will welcome all these feelings, all this pain. We will gather all the pieces and build our heart again and again and again until we find love in our lives. Where to find shelter in society? Sometimes we say that society is so sick that if we go search something in there, we might get even sicker. But as it was talked today, and I repeated, the family is the warm and shelter in the moments that we can't see the light. Talk with your friends, with your family. Be honest. Don't waste the time. And then carry a heavier burden later on. Friends, our friends, they are there to help us. They want to help us. And even though someone didn't answer you, or someone is insisting in talk with you when you don't want to talk, pray for them. Pray for them as well. Because, let me explain you one important thing. Even though we are broken, doesn't mean that we can't wish the best for the other. We can't love the other. This is a big mistake. We don't need to be fulfilled of the virtue to use it. We can love our brothers and sisters, our friends, our family, even though we are feeling so much pain and love. There is always time to start cultivating the seeds of love. And when we spread out there, it returns. Because there is a law called cause-effect, that everything that goes will return. So actions of love, prayer, will always return. We have the government giving us support. We are not alone. The government's not telling us, go kill yourself. An opposite. They are giving us 24/7 phone possibilities to live that tough shelter that we are in and find a stronger one. 811, don't forget this number. If you are struggling, don't hesitate, call. Nobody's going to be tracking you, nobody's going to be judging you. They are there to help. There is also so many ONGs helping, so many non-profits. Go after them. Don't waste the chance. Here in Calgary we have the Stress Center, and they help so many people hourly, every minute. They can help us as well. Don't think, please don't think that your case is not solvable. Everything is solvable. And finally, go search for the Spiritist home close to you. Go search for a Catholic church. Go search for a Christian church. Go search for something that helps you to connect to God, to connect with your essence. Because I gotta tell you, I have been passing through very tough times. And I understand that one of the things that have been helping me is seeking the help of the Spiritist house. seeking the help of the brothers and sisters in the Spiritist house. And even though we are closed because COVID-19, that doesn't avoid us to call, to find someone, to seek for help, spiritual help. Our brother Luis was so certain today when he said, our mental disease, our emotional diseases, they can be solved. We didn't born to fail. We were born to prevail. So believe. A comforting word from a Spiritist center sometimes may be a big time for you. But in all these wonderful shelters in society, I once again repeat, Jesus is our answer. He is inviting us all the time to find a shelter through fraternity, loving each other, love, compassion for each other. The other one is struggling. Don't criticize him or her. You don't know what's going to be your struggle. And you might need his or her help. So help him or her now. It's time. When Jesus said, a new commandment I give you, that you love one another, as I have loved you, that you also love one another. By this all will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another. Let's embrace fraternity. This is the most beautiful and the most certain assertion about fraternity. How to describe real fraternity. And if we want to really be Jesus followers, follow Jesus' steps, Jesus' teachings, it's time to practice this. And deliver yourself to Jesus. Come to me, all you who are exhausted and overburdened, and I will give you rest. This is a wonderful invitation. An invitation that only a pure, an enlightened spirit is able to make. Because he knows the way out. He knows the way out. And the way out is where exactly comes the next verse. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am meek and humble in heart. We all understand the depression and the causes of mental or emotional diseases come from some movement of rebellion. We are rebelling against the divine laws. We already saw this today. Hey, every one of us rebel. We don't criticize those who choose medications. We don't criticize those who choose drugs, sex, work, and so many other ways to live with their conscience, but we invite all of us who are feeling some kind of rebellion to reflect if that is the right path. And if it's not the right path, take with meekness, tolerance, patience, indulgence, with humbleness, accepting that maybe I don't know everything. Maybe I was using a mask, maybe I chose the wrong shelter. That's okay. We all make mistakes. And you don't need to punish yourself because of that. Don't need. We need to love each other, but above all, love ourselves. And I will find you rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. He will always keep inviting us forever until we decide with a firm purpose to follow the divine laws. There is a wonderful song that doesn't exactly was made in English, but there are beautiful verses that helps us to find that our shelter is still there and there is still time to look after it. Doesn't matter how much you went wrong. If you want, you can start over, because God will always be with His arms wide open, waiting to embrace you. If your steps have been in dark paths, and there was no one to guide you, allow yourself to find your way. Start over without self-condemnation. There is more light than any darkness. There is more heaven than any prison. There is more life for those who do not see the exit. There is more yes for those who just tell you no. Let's not forget our shelter. Let us not forget our true north. Let us not forget that Jesus is extending His hands to each one of us this very moment. To finish, I would like to once again read the ending passage from the book Memoirs of a Suicide. That's also in the book Suicide: A False Solution, where the mentor tells us, "Courage, pilgrim of sin, return to the starting point and rebuild your destiny and improve your character in redemptive struggles through the sorrow that instructs. Suffer and weep with resignation, because your tears will be a blessed fount where your conscience, eager for peace, can quench its thirst. Let your feet bleed amid the storms and brambles with the toil of earthly reparation. Let your heart be forged in the fires of diversity. Let your hours endure the dark throne of disillusion, filled with anguish and loneliness. Be patient and humble. And remember that everything is temporary, that it will change with your readjustment to the sacred laws you infringed. And learn, once and for all, that you are immortal, and that you will be, through the reckless detour of suicide, that any person will ever find harbor to true happiness. I appreciate your patience. I appreciate your comments. I appreciate your loving following with us today. Don't forget, the help is always here, is there, is everywhere. Let's leave the shelter that's not protecting us from the storm and find the right and the true shelter. Thank you very much, and we will go to our final prayer now. I believe Anna will conduct this. So let us raise our thoughts to Mary, to Jesus, and filled with gratitude, thanks them for this wonderful Sunday where we found true love, true fraternity, true help for our broken pieces, for our darkest hours. There is no need to run away. There is no need to isolate. Take your time. Believe Jesus is with you, and always deliver yourself to His love and compassion, because if you or anyone who you know have suicidal thoughts, He is there to help you, to help raise the hand to someone else, to help to stand up and go. through this wonderful path of love. Let us all remember, life prevails. Life never ends. As we are immortal spirits, let's find our shelters in the moments of sorrow, the moments of pain, and from there, re-energized, reboosted our strength, continue the journey, never stop, evolving, reborning, every time it is necessary. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Father. Thank you, mentors of FSCS. And may our brothers and sisters who worked hard today to build this workshop receive the light, receive the peace that we all deserve as brothers and sisters, sons and daughters of the eternal love. So be it.